Hi, everyone. Chad and Billy here from Modern Law Practice. Today, we are going to continue our discussion on productizing legal services. How are you doing today, Billy?
Good, doing good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. So for the past several sessions, we've kind of started off with a little update on your retail scenario.
Mhm.
And I happened to get to see it last night. You're open for business. It
Yes.
looks cool. So
Uh-huh.
would love for you to update everyone on how that's going.
Well, it's going great. We've had 0 customers.
Perfect. How many days you've been open?
Um, let's see. We've been open, I think, a week
Okay.
today. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So let's be more specific because it's saying 0 customers. Uh, you are in a scenario where, just to recap, in case somebody hasn't heard the back discussion, you have opened a retail store at an outdoor high-end mall called
Mhm.
Santan Village in the East Valley of Phoenix, with the idea of selling more like modern law express. So selling more like non-litigation services beyond, having, services that are related to family law, but also non-family law practice areas, right?
Right. Yep. Deeds. It's perfect for this discussion because these
Yes.
are low cost, prepackaged, transactional, packaged, productized legal services.
And in fact, you're getting into expungements of marijuana convictions, right?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Which I'm sure, like, I mean, we could relate everything to family law. So I'm sure there's some, tie-in on that in general for what led people to their convictions, probably some kind of family dispute in the first place. But so you've been open for a week. When you say you haven't had any customers, meaning that no one has walked in off the street to sign up for or purchase services from Modern Law Express. Is
That's
that what you're
correct.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have somebody come in and he's going to end up being a podcast guest because he's got a super cool story. Um,
But
but
he's not going to be a client.
he's not going to be a client. No.
Okay. I mean, but people have walked in, right? They just are looking for the doctor next door, though.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
And
the fun part about running retail is that you're going to have that kind of stuff because people are going to get confused and you're not know where to go.
yeah.
So you're about to say something else. You had an
Well,
and.
it's also it's a very, very slow season for outdoor retail in Arizona, which is fine. It was one of the reasons we opened in the summer was so that we could sort of work out the kinks before we had a lot of foot traffic. There hasn't been a lot of foot traffic because it's hot and everybody's just staying inside. Um, and yeah, so I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of value in the presence and the signage in the press releases that just went out, and so we'll just have to see what happens with it.
And the nice part about it is one of the things that I like about the idea is that, even if people don't walk in for weeks, walk in and maybe you just get a bench of podcast guests, but you have team members that are working there. Your intake team is working out of that retail space. So it's not like you have people sitting around twiddling their thumbs, hoping that somebody walks in that wants to buy stuff. They're actually doing their existing job of processing intake leads while at that store. So you're really just in, worst case scenario, you're housing your intake team offsite in a mall so they can go get, their Chipotle or, go to a Barnes and Noble on a break. That's a lot easier. So that's kind of the worst case scenario is they're working just from a different location.
True.
So it's kind of fun. All right. Well, you're right. It does relate to productizing services. And today, so last time we had this discussion, we kind of teed it up with the idea of let's explore what it looks like to standardize or productize legal services. And we talked about a wide range of scale of what that can mean. Everything from something as simple as automating, some package documentation to make it easier for people to buy on a fixed fee when you charge hourly. All the way to the other end. And the example we used was our friend Erin's company, Hello Divorce, where she had her traditional family law firm, and still has it, but then also started HD, Hello Divorce, for purposes of helping people navigate the divorce process in California, now other states, either in a DIY context with a little bit of legal coaching or more expanded services as we go. And so it's a very focused and expansive program. And then everything else can follow in between. So that's where we started the conversation. So where we want to go today is along that scale, is talking about what it means to build an audience for these types of services. And there's different ways to approach this. And again, just kind of like what you offer is a sliding scale, like how you market it and build your audience is something that can vary. And we're talking about it kind of up front in this discussion with the idea of starting, even if you haven't rolled out the services, being intentional about thinking who you're going to reach as a result of that. So let's start with modern law and how you have approached this concept and idea of building an audience.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been playing with this since 2013. And when we originally launched the product concept, it was forward-facing documents for DIY, self-represented family law litigants in Maricopa County. Super targeted niche. LegalZoom doesn't have the ability to have county specific family law forms anywhere. And it was pure product, and for a very different audience than was coming to modern law, except that people were always calling modern law who couldn't afford it. And I think every family law attorney out there experiences this, where you've got people calling you who are like, you want me to pay $250 for your consult? There's no way. There's people contacting you who can't afford your services. And the idea is, how do we get them this other service? So we tried marketing directly to consumers. We tried this in a couple ways. We got the list of all of the respondents from the courthouse and sent them letters. So we targeted directly our potential clients with letters. And this was allowed and it was ethical because I Do Over is not a law firm. And so the solicitation rules don't apply. And so we worked with ethics attorneys to make sure that we could do that. We really went on a campaign that was directly for those people. I Do Over document customers.
And just real quick, in case somebody hasn't heard of I Do Over, you've got the law firm Modern Law, then you have I Do Over is a document preparation company that is a non-law firm.
Okay. Right.
So different rules.
Yeah, different rules. And actually the rules are what dictated that they had to be two separate companies, which I'm sure ethics and regulation is for a different day. But so we went on, specific marketing campaigns for these people and did not find success. So I found success building an audience simply by saying and having, well, it went both ways. Sometimes people would hear about the I Do Over services and the document services, go to the website and then say, I really need more help. I'm going to hire Modern Law.
Right.
Other times people would come to Modern Law, be unable to afford it, and then would get redirected to I Do Over. But it wasn't until we married services from either legal coaching from a lawyer or from a certified legal document preparer that people really wanted the prepackaged legal services. So there was a lot there.
There's a lot there. And so, I mean, boiling it down is basically you have historically tried to go reach that audience, but you've landed on letting the two ideas kind of circulate and feed each other. Fair?
Right.
Instead of going separate. Do you have any idea how many people you got to sign up that came out of the I Do Over solicitation of respondents?
Oh yeah, it was like none.
None. Okay. Do you know how many you sent it to?
I mean, it was maybe like maybe two contacted us. I don't think we got any hires. And we did this a number of times, thousands and thousands of letters, probably
Okay.
4,000 or 5,000 letters. So that's enough of a sample size.
I was right to demonstrate maybe that's not the way to go.
And we tried also, we tried various types of letters and postcards.
Right. It just made like so, and so in thinking through that, like you've got people who have been served or likely going to be served, um, who are primed for legal services. And so that it seems like, you know, the two that called, were they looking for, I mean, not that if you know this, great. If not, cool. But like, were they people that are like, I need a real lawyer versus somebody that can just help me prep documents in response?
I mean, all I remember is that it did not work. It did
Okay.
not yield customers, which is probably not what people want to hear. But I'm gonna tell you the
No.
truth.
Well, no, it's helpful because it's going, I mean, it's, you know, figuring out how to reach or not reach a target audience, and figuring out what doesn't work is just as helpful as sending out something that does work. Because now, you know, that's a very, like, there could be, you didn't get a sample size of respondents to be able to say, okay, you know, you were really looking for X, but we sent you information on Y. It may be that people, if you aren't used to getting contacted for legal services out, you know, maybe they, you know, not that many people are in car accidents that get PI firm folders and things like that in the mail. So they may not be used to it, and they just may not trust the concept just because it's different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you may not want to be the first one to get to them after they, you know, get served, or who knows. Like, there's so many variations for it and how people are looking for legal services. Are they going to trust their ability to research online more than the person that drops a letter that magically appears 2 days after a filing, that maybe your letter beat them to the punch and they didn't even know about the filing or the service at that point?
Yeah, that happened. That happened a couple times where people are like, "Why are you sending me this? I'm not getting divorced."
Surprise, your spouse hates you. You are, whether you like it or not, and no fault state. Too bad. Okay, so right now, are you marketing I do over services separately from modern law services?
Not really. So I always wanted this to be one company. I didn't ever want this to be two companies. I saw this as like the same people who are coming to my law firm aren't getting the services they want from my law firm because they can't afford it. So how do I create services that they do want and that they can't afford? Like that was my concept. And so we're only two separate companies because the regulations require it to be so. And so I market as much as possible in a joint way while drawing very clear lines. So if you go to Modern Law's website, you'll read about the fact that we offer more options than any other law firm, and that some of those options are offered through our sister company, I Do Over.
Okay, so little jerkiness in the middle of this video because you and I just cut out an absurdly long discussion on ethics and entities, and we didn't like exchange profanities to each other. It probably got a little tense. But our plan was to get into that in a later session. So either we'll probably just kill that part of the video and do it more constructively later on. But so let's come back to the topic at hand. We're talking about building an audience, and let's use the rest of our time to think through like different ways firms and lawyers can go, you know, build that audience and who they should attract. We've talked about how you've tried things that didn't work. What are some other ideas that we can kind of talk through from your vantage point?
Well, I lawyers underutilize limited scope legal services or legal coaching. I really think that this is underutilized, and it's something that every lawyer should look at incorporating in some way or another.
Right. So like the idea of legal coaching could be effectively thinking through the idea of, this is done already, but it's just packaging it differently, like selling your time, your expertise, and different types, different chunks of time versus trying to bring in, clients that are going to pay you, hour after hour after hour, get them some value up front, especially because they may not have ever even talked to a lawyer like this before.
Yeah, like people are representing themselves in family court, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing. They can come in and get hours of, they can either get drafting help, they can get advice, they can get, one of the other things that we offer is online classes. We have courses online for people that walk them through the family court system from A to Z, and people can access that, and it walks them through, discovery and how to use it. The other thing that people could do is you could offer group legal services, like a seminar to a bunch of people who were all, going through a divorce or things like that. There are, if you look at things like collaborative law or divorce hotels, there are so many ways to package what we're selling that isn't just individual one-to-one legal advice.
Right. And a scenario where it's like you get all or nothing kind of deal.
Right.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I've talked with lawyers who will sell, like, it's not even necessarily legal advice, but it's experience where they say, somebody's going to court and they buy X, amount of time to understand what's it going to be like. I've never been in a courtroom before. Teach me, how do I dress? What do I do? What do I make? How do I look professional? All that kind of fun stuff. Like that's not necessarily legal advice, but that's a service that, lawyers have knowledge of that others don't necessarily.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many things that we could sell. There's so many ways that we could become more accessible to the public and get them what they want. And for me, it started with like listening to the clients say, here's what I want. Can you do it? Now, we had one thing that often goes hand in hand is this idea of flat fee services and limited scope services. So you want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. So here we're talking about, well, flat fee obviously is going to be, some defined, hopefully a defined representation of, you pay X number of dollars and you're going to get certain services. And there's parameters on that, obviously, so you don't have scope creep and it doesn't get out of control. So that's one aspect. And what goes hand in hand with that is the idea of limited scope, which is nothing new, but it became, I think, more popular in the idea of like offering online services and selling things online where you are, the example I just gave of saying to somebody, if somebody pays you $500 for a couple hour coaching session on what it's like to go to trial, you're not their attorney of record. You're not going to be, in that scenario, drafting documents. It's the scope of the services is defined and limited to certain things. Rules on that, making sure it's in writing. That's just a good practice so that there's no question later on about it. But that's a great way within the existing, infrastructure of how we, how law firms operate to, productize or standardize services. You can list it on your website. $200 gets you trial prep coaching on how to, act on this, or $500 gets, we will review all of your trial documentation that, X, before, well, I mean, I guess it could be due, it doesn't matter, but, we're going to review your documents and provide suggestions on it. And then you go take it, what you want to do with it and file it yourself. So very limited, but also a great way to, I mean, quite frankly, like Billy talked about with, or you, I guess I'm talking to you, who knows who I'm talking to here. When you are using I do over in modern law to kind of feed each other, one way to think about uh, limited scope services is it's a chance for you to demonstrate value and credibility to a client who then, let's say their trial gets kicked. And now they're really thinking like, I went to Billie and she was super helpful. Maybe I should hire her just to do this trial. And so it's a sales tool as well.
That's absolutely true. Sometimes people will think they can't afford you, spend a couple hours with you, and decide they need to figure out a way how to afford you.
Right, exactly. It's time to ask for help from somebody to be able to do it, because now it's like you had a great rapport, so much information. How do I make that happen? Cool. All right. Well, this ended up better than it was before we cut it off. So good. We will continue on with the series, getting into topics like, how to execute on those services once you define who you're going, reaching out to and what you want to offer, get into the ethics discussions on it and so on. So thank you. Technology.
Systems, all that jazz.
Yep. We'll keep it going. All right. Well, thank you, Billie. Have a great rest of your day.
You
Thank
too.
you, everybody, for joining us.